Captain Alexandra Alex Mitchell had seen her share of beautiful deaths among the stars. But this would be different. Through the quantum viewport of the UES Hope's End, she watched the distant sun fade from brilliant white to a sickly orange, its light casting long shadows across the bridge. Her fingers found the streak Christopher's medal at her neck, her father's last gift, before the Varaxians took New Mars. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. Aria's calm voice filled the bridge. Varaxian biosignatures confirmed. Initial count suggests 73 capital ships, Captain. Mitchell didn't need the eye's confirmation. The crystalline formations emerging from slip space were unmistakable, their organic hulls refracting the dying star's light into crimson patterns across the Hope's End's bridge. Each vessel was the size of a small city, their surfaces bristling with crystalline appendages that somehow managed to look both beautiful and obscene. "How long since Earth's last transmission?" Mitchell asked, though she knew the answer. The words had been burning in her mind for the past 6 hours. 6 hours, 12 minutes, 17 seconds, Aria replied. "Would you like me to replay the message, Captain?" "No." Mitchell's grip tightened on her command chair. "Whatever it takes." 3 words that carried the weight of billions. Status of the quantum chambers. Lieutenant Commander Rivera looked up from his station, dark circles under his eyes betraying the days of frantic modifications. "Ready as they'll ever be, Captain. But the simulations still show." "I know what they show, James." Mitchell cut him off gently. They'd had this argument 3 times already. Status of the crew. "Final evacuations are underway," Rivera reported, though Peterson and his engineering team are still refusing to leave. Mitchell allowed herself a small smile. Of course they were. "Aria, shipwide please." "Channel open, Captain." Standing from her chair, Mitchell took a moment to straighten her uniform. Even now, some habits died hard. "This is your captain speaking. In about 5 minutes, the Varaxian fleet will be within firing range. By now, you've all heard Earth's final command. Whatever it takes." She paused, watching the enemy fleet's approach pattern. "But I want you to know something. This isn't just about following orders. This isn't just about Earth, or the colonies, or even humanity's survival. This is about showing the galaxy that we don't break. We don't surrender. And we sure as hell don't go quietly." The bridge crew straightened in their chairs. Mitchell could feel the shift in the air. "Final evacuation pods launch in 3 minutes. For those choosing to remain aboard, I won't order you to leave, but know that what we're about to attempt." She trailed off as Aria's holographic form flickered urgently. "Captain, detecting unusual energy patterns from the Varaxian flagship. Signature matches." "Matches." The AI's normally fluid voice stuttered. "Matches what?" "Aria. The ancient beacons, Captain. The forbidden archives we discovered in the Proxima ruins. The pattern is identical, but magnified by a factor of 10,000. Mitchell's eyes narrowed as she studied the approaching fleet. Their formation wasn't the usual attack pattern. It was almost ceremonial, like pallbearers at a funeral. "Show me." The viewport shifted, overlaying quantum energy readings across the Varaxian ships. The flagship pulsed with a rhythm that seemed maddeningly familiar. Mitchell had seen it before, in the archived warnings left by long-dead civilizations. "My God," Rivera whispered, "they're not just attacking us. They're preparing a purification ritual," Mitchell finished. "Aria, calculate time to optimal firing position." 2 minutes, 47 seconds, Captain." Mitchell's hand went to her medal one last time, then dropped to the command console. "All hands, this is your final warning. Evacuation pods launch in 2 minutes, and for those staying." She took a deep breath. "It has been my highest honor." Mitchell out. As the bridge fell silent again, she watched the Varaxian fleet approach. Their crystalline ships moved with terrible grace, preparing to execute a sentence passed by long-dead masters on a species they deemed too dangerous to exist. "They're wrong about us, you know," Mitchell said quietly to her remaining crew. They think they're here to bury humanity. Her fingers danced across the console, initiating the quantum chamber's powered-up sequence. Instead, they're about to learn why you should never corner a species that turned its own myths into reality. The stars seemed to hold their breath as humanity's flagship prepared for its final descent. Captain Mitchell, please report to the bridge immediately. Those words had started it all. 6 months ago, Mitchell remembered standing in the officers' lounge of Ganymede Station. Champagne glass halfway to her lips, golden captain's bars still fresh on her collar. The celebration of her promotion had barely begun when Aria's voice cut through the music and laughter. Now, as the Hope's End faced down an armada of Voraxian ships, that memory played with crystal clarity in Mitchell's mind. She could still smell the expensive perfume of Admiral Chen's wife, mixing with the artificial pine scent that Ganymede Station pumped through its ventilation system during the holidays. Display the footage, Mitchell ordered, her voice steady despite the weight in her chest. Ganymede Station. First contact. The quantum viewport flickered, replacing the current view of the Voraxian fleet with archived footage. Several bridge crew members turned away. They'd lost friends that day. But Mitchell forced herself to watch, searching for details she might have missed. The first Voraxian ship had appeared without warning, emerging from what they'd initially thought was a sensor malfunction. It had looked almost beautiful, like a cathedral made of living crystal, refracting the light of Jupiter into rainbow patterns across the station's hull. Freeze playback, Mitchell ordered. Aria. Compare the crystalline structure of that first ship to the current fleet. Analyzing. The AI responded. Structural patterns show a 47% increase in complexity. They're evolving, Captain. Learning from every encounter, Mitchell murmured. She remembered the horror of watching those crystalline appendages extend toward Ganymede Station, how everyone had thought they were attempting communication. Resume playback. The footage continued. The crystal appendages had pierced the station's hull like it was paper. What followed still haunted her dreams. The screams over the comm as the crystal began to spread, converting organic matter, people, into raw material for more ships. Mitchell had been halfway to an escape pod when she'd heard Admiral Chen's final transmission. Hope's End, this is Chen. You're the only ship with experimental weapons. Whatever you do, don't let them reach Earth. Whatever it takes. The same words Earth had echoed 6 months later. Skip ahead, Mitchell ordered, her fingers finding her metal again. Show me the counterattack. The footage jumped. The Hope's End, still sporting its diplomatic markings, rammed through 2 smaller Voraxian vessels. The experimental quantum weapons had worked, briefly, before the biological ships adapted. But it had bought enough time for 17 escape pods to launch from the dying station. Pause there. Mitchell pointed to a crystalline formation growing across the station's main viewport. Aria. Compare this pattern to the current fleet's formation. Pattern recognition engaged. Captain. They're identical. The fleet is arranging itself in the same configuration used to consume Ganymede Station. Commander Rivera looked up sharply from his console. They're not just attacking. They're attempting to replicate their first major victory. No. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. They're showing us they remember. This isn't just tactical. It's psychological. She straightened in her chair. Aria, what was the total casualty count from Ganymede? 7,242 confirmed dead or converted. 164 survivors from escape pods, including Sarah, Mitchell's best friend and XO, who'd stay behind to manually launch the final pods. She'd watched through the ship's cameras as the crystals consumed her friend, the transformation starting at her fingertips and spreading like frost on a window. Captain. Aria's voice cut through the memory. I've completed analysis of the fleet's approach pattern. They're not just mimicking Ganymede, they're improving upon it. If this attack succeeds, the conversion rate would be exponentially higher. Mitchell nodded slowly, her decision crystallizing like the very ships they faced. Then we don't let them complete the pattern. HFY, show me the quantum chamber modifications again. And this time, factor in what we know about their geometric memory, if they can remember their victories. Then they can be forced to remember their defeats. HFY finished, catching on to her captain's train of thought. Mitchell allowed herself a grim smile. Exactly. Let's give them a memory they'll never forget. Decryption complete. HFY's announcement cut through the tense silence on the bridge. The AI's holographic form flickered with unusual patterns, side effects from processing the ancient beacon's corrupted data archives. Show me, Mitchell ordered, watching as the quantum viewport filled with fragmented images. The recording was old, impossibly old, showing beings of pure energy conducting what appeared to be some kind of experiment. Translation matrix engaged, HFY announced. Audio reconstruction at 62% integrity. The beings spoke, their voices overlapping in a chorus that made Mitchell's teeth ache. Protocol Omega initiated. The purification matrix must be maintained. Lesser species cannot be allowed to breach containment. Containment of what? Mitchell wondered aloud, leaning forward in her chair. The images shifted, showing vast shipyards where crystalline structures grew like gardens of geometric death. The precursors, those beings of energy, moved among their creation with what Mitchell could only interpret as pride. They're not just weapons, Rivera breathed, understanding dawning on his face. They're a test. The recording continued, showing various alien civilizations encountering the Voraxian ships. Some fought back with weapons that dwarfed humanity's arsenal. Others surrendered immediately, destroying their own technology in desperate submission. A few simply chose extinction, detonating their worlds rather than face the crystal tide. HFY, cross-reference these encounter patterns with our own battles. Mitchell ordered, her mind racing. Show me what's different about humanity's response. The AI compiled the data, creating a holographic comparison in the center of the bridge. Pattern anomaly detected, Captain. All other species followed one of three responses: submission, resistance, or self-destruction. Humanity is the only species that sacrificed for others, Mitchell finished. The evidence was there in the battle data. Every major human victory had come at the cost of deliberate sacrifice. Ships ramming crystal titans to save civilian transports, ground forces holding position until evacuation ships could launch. The recording flickered again, showing a precursor speaking directly to the camera. The purification protocols are absolute. Species that achieve faster than light travel must be tested. Those who fight must be eliminated. Those who submit may be preserved. This is the way of order. Pause playback, Mitchell ordered. HFY, what's the significance of FTL travel as a trigger? The AI's form pulsed thoughtfully, processing precursor logic patterns. Captain, I believe they saw FTL capability as a threshold for potential infection. Infection by what? By chaos itself. HFY projected a new series of calculations. The precursors believed that any species capable of bypassing normal spacetime represented a threat to universal order. The Voraxians weren't just designed to destroy. They were programmed to enforce the precursors' vision of cosmic harmony. Mitchell stood, pacing the bridge as the pieces fell into place. That's why their ships are crystalline. Perfect geometric patterns. Mathematical purity. Correct. And also why they. HFY stopped suddenly, her holographic form flaring with alarm. Captain, critical discovery in the encrypted data. The Voraxian consciousness isn't distributed through the fleet. It's centralized in the flagship. The precursors designed it that way to maintain perfect order. But they never anticipated someone might use that against them. Mitchell finished, a plan forming in her mind. HFY, show me the quantum chamber modifications again. If the Voraxian consciousness is centralized, and we can trap it in a temporal loop, the entire fleet would be severed from its command protocols. Rivera realized, turning to his console. But Captain, the power requirements would be exactly what we have. Mitchell cut him off. Because they didn't just make one mistake in their design. They made two. Araya, what powers their ships? Crystalline quantum matrices, Captain. The same fundamental technology as our quantum chambers, but on a massive scale. Mitchell smiled grimly. Perfect geometric patterns, flowing with more quantum energy than we could ever generate on our own. We don't need to match their power. We can use it against them, Rivera whispered, understanding dawning on his face. The viewport showed the Varaxian fleet continuing its ritual approach, each ship moving with mathematical precision. They were so focused on maintaining their perfect patterns that they couldn't see the flaw in their own design. Send the evacuation signal, Mitchell ordered. Anyone who stays needs to understand. We're not just fighting for survival anymore. We're about to teach the universe that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. What is it, Captain? Rivera asked. Mitchell touched her street Christopher's medal one last time. Our willingness to break the rules of order itself. You can't be serious. Dr. Emma Hayes, the ship's chief medical officer, slammed her tablet onto the briefing room table. The neural scans displayed on it showed cascading patterns of synaptic activity, simulations of what would happen to a human mind inside the modified quantum chamber. The pain alone would be beyond measurement. Mitchell finished calmly. I know. Show them the rest. Araya. The AI projected a holographic model of the quantum chamber in the center of the table. Originally designed for diplomatic encounters, its crystalline interior now bristled with jury-rigged modifications. The chamber was designed to link minds, Lieutenant Park, their quantum systems specialist, explained, to create perfect understanding between species. But what the captain's suggesting? She shook her head in disbelief. It's brilliant and insane. Explain it again, Rivera demanded. In simple terms. Mitchell stood, walking around the table to stand beside the hologram. The Varaxians operate on perfect mathematical patterns. Their consciousness, their very existence, depends on maintaining that order. But human consciousness, she smiled tightly. We're chaos incarnate. The chamber would amplify that chaos, Park continued, using their own quantum energy against them. But it needs a guide, Mitchell finished. A human consciousness to direct the quantum field, to experience every possible iteration of time within the loop we create, to become the chaos that breaks their order. Hayes pointed at her neural scans again. And that consciousness would experience subjective eternities in the space of moments. Do you understand what that means? The human mind isn't meant to transcend its own temporal limitations. Mitchell interrupted. To experience multiple time streams simultaneously, to become something more than human. She leaned forward, her hands flat on the table. That's exactly what they never expected. That's why it will work. Rivera studied the hologram, his tactical mind processing the implications. The volunteer would have to maintain cognitive coherence through the entire process. One slip, one moment of quantum uncertainty, would collapse the field and lose our only chance to stop them, Park finished. It would take someone with incredible mental discipline. Someone who. It has to be me, Mitchell said quietly. The room fell silent. No. Rivera stood so quickly his chair toppled backward. Absolutely not. You're our captain. You need someone who's already mapped to the ship's quantum systems through countless tactical drills. Mitchell cut him off. Someone who's already interfaced with Araya's neural network. Someone who's expendable, Hayes demanded. Someone who's already chosen, Mitchell corrected gently. She removed her captain's bars, placing them on the table with deliberate care. The moment Earth sent that final command, this became my path. Alex. Hayes tried again, her professional demeanor cracking. The simulations show the consciousness would experience hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of iterations. You'd be trapped in there, aware of every possible outcome, every potential death. Until the field collapses, Mitchell nodded. Until their perfect order shatters under the weight of human chaos. She touched her street Christopher's medal. My father used to say that humanity's greatest gift was our ability to look into the abyss and laugh. It's suicide, Rivera whispered. No. Mitchell's voice hardened. It's evolution. Araya, show them the final calculations. The AI projected new figures, showing the cascading effect of the quantum disruption. The volunteer's consciousness would be altered on a fundamental level, Araya explained. Transformed into something beyond current human understanding. Into what? Hayes asked. Into whatever humanity needs to survive, Mitchell answered. She straightened, and for a moment her crew saw something in her eyes, a glimpse of the determination that had driven their species from caves to the stars. The Voraxians think they're here to purify the galaxy of chaos. Instead, they're about to learn why humanity has survived every catastrophe in our history. Why is that? Park asked softly. Mitchell's smile was fierce. Because we don't break when the rules say we should. We don't surrender when the math says we must. And we sure as hell don't fear the unknown. We become it. Message recording initiated, Captain. Mitchell sat in her quarters, staring at the small holographic recorder floating before her. The room was stripped bare. She'd already packed her personal effects for storage, all except the photo on her desk, showing her father in his old NASA uniform. Hey, Dad, she began, then stopped as a violent shudder ran through the ship. Another Voraxian probe testing their defenses. She waited for the all-clear before continuing. I'm about to do something that would probably make you proud and Mom furious. She smiled slightly. Remember when you told me that being a captain meant being willing to go down with the ship? Well, I'm about to take that concept to a whole new level. The intercom crackled. Captain, we have a situation in engineering. Mitchell sighed. Pause recording. She grabbed her uniform jacket, shrugging it on as she headed for the door. What kind of situation, ARI? Engineer Peterson and his team are refusing to prep their evacuation pods. They've barricaded themselves in the quantum drive section. Of course they had. Mitchell redirected her path to engineering, passing crews hurrying through final preparations. Every person she passed snapped to attention, their eyes following her with a mixture of respect and grief. They all knew what she was about to do. The engineering deck was chaos when she arrived. Peterson, a bear of a man with hands permanently stained with quantum coolant, stood with 5 of his team in front of the drive controls. Captain, he nodded stiffly. We're staying. Like hell you are. Mitchell crossed her arms. That's not a request, Chief. Someone needs to maintain the quantum field stability, Peterson argued. The automated systems won't be enough. I need you alive. Mitchell cut him off. Because if this works, if we survive, humanity's going to need every engineer it can get to understand what happens next. And if it doesn't work, then I need to know someone survived who remembers why we tried. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Think about it, John. If we fail, the Voraxians will learn from whatever we attempt. The next human fleet they face would have no chance. I need you out there, studying the data, finding another way. Peterson's resolve wavered. Captain, Another impact rocked the ship, harder this time. Voraxian scout ship. Direct hit to Section 7, Araya reported. Shields holding at 82%. They're testing our response patterns, Mitchell muttered. Araya. Time to optimal firing position. 17 minutes, Captain. And the AI hesitated. The temporal field calculations have been updated. Dr. Hayes' latest simulations suggest the experience might be more extensive than initially projected. Mitchell saw Peterson's eyes widen as he checked the new numbers. My God, Captain. This says you'll experience. I know what it says. Mitchell's voice was steel. Now get your team to their pods. That's an order. The big engineer stared at her for a long moment, then snapped to attention. "Aye, Captain. It's been an honor." As Peterson's team finally headed for evacuation, Mitchell turned to the quantum drive itself. The massive cylinder pulsed with ethereal light, its crystalline components humming in harmony with the ship's systems. "ARIA, resume recording." The holographic recorder materialized beside her. "Sorry about that, Dad. Had to remind some people that survival isn't just about who stays to fight." She touched the street Christopher's medal. "Mom always said I was too much like you, too ready to sacrifice everything for the mission. But that's not what this is about." She walked to the drive controls, checking the modifications herself. "This is about evolution, about becoming something new so that humanity can survive. You taught me that space would change us, that each step into the unknown would transform us into something greater." A bitter smile crossed her face. "I don't think this is what you had in mind, but—" Another impact. Warning lights flashed. "Multiple Varaxian signatures on attack vector," Araya announced. "Captain, they've detected the quantum field modifications. They're adjusting their approach pattern." Mitchell straightened. "Good, let them come, because I'm about to show them exactly what happens when you back humanity into a corner." She faced the recorder one last time. "I love you both, and I'm not afraid." End recording. She turned to the quantum drive, its light reflecting in her determined eyes. "ARIA, begin final countdown. It's time to teach the universe why humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology." "What was it, Captain?" Mitchell smiled as she initiated the power-up sequence, "Our ability to look into infinity and step forward anyway." The Hope's End's chapel had never been designed to hold the entire remaining crew. Yet somehow, in these final moments, they all fit. The small space, tucked away on Deck C, had been Captain Mitchell's last stop before heading to the quantum chamber. "I didn't expect to find you here," Chaplain Rodriguez said, watching as Mitchell traced her fingers along the altar. Crew members had been leaving items there all day. Wedding rings, family photos, children's drawings, even a battered paperback copy of The Little Prince. "Last time I was in a chapel, I was 7, Mitchell replied, picking up a small wooden cross someone had left. "My father's funeral. Mom said he'd gone to the stars." She placed the cross back carefully. "Guess I'm about to find out if she was right." The chaplain studied her face. "Are you seeking absolution, Captain?" "No." Mitchell's voice was firm. "I'm seeking understanding." She gestured to the altar. "Look at these offerings. Buddhist prayer beads next to a Star of David, a Quran beside a quantum physicist's notebook. Every faith, every belief system humanity has ever created, all trying to make sense of the infinite." Warning lights flashed, casting red shadows across the chapel's walls. Varaxian scout ships entering weapons range. Araya announced shipwide. 12 minutes to optimal firing position. Mitchell watched as more crew members slipped into the chapel, some still in their evacuation suits. They came from every department: engineering, medical, tactical. Even Dr. Hayes entered quietly, carrying something in her closed fist. "They're not here for a service," Rodriguez observed. "No," Mitchell agreed. "They're here because humanity has always faced the unknown the same way, together." Hayes approached the altar, opening her hand to reveal a neural implant. "It's the prototype," she explained quietly. "The first successful human-AI interface. Thought you might want it up here with the rest." Mitchell nodded, understanding the symbolism. That tiny chip had first proved humans could extend beyond their biological limitations. Now they were about to attempt something far more ambitious. "Chaplain," Mitchell addressed Rodriguez, "would you lead us? Not in any particular faith's prayer, but in humanity's prayer," he finished, understanding. He stepped forward, his voice carrying to every corner of the packed chapel. "We stand here, children of Earth, at the edge of infinity. Each of us carrying different beliefs, different hopes, different fears, but united in this moment, in this purpose." Another warning light. 10 minutes. "Some of us believe in gods, Rodriguez continued. Some in science, some in the indomitable spirit of humanity itself. But all of us believe in something greater than ourselves. Mitchell closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her metal against her chest. We came to the stars carrying our dreams, our myths, our stories. We turned our legends into reality, our hopes into starships. And now, as we face the darkness, we offer up not just our prayers, but our defiance. 8 minutes. Crew members began adding their own voices, a spontaneous chorus of beliefs and languages. Our Father, who art in heaven. Allahu Akbar. Mani Padmehum. Hear, O Israel. The prayers blended together, becoming something new, something uniquely human. Mitchell opened her eyes to see the altar glowing with the red warning lights, the personal treasures casting strange shadows on the ceiling. Captain, Araya's voice cut through the moment. The quantum chamber is ready. Mitchell straightened, touching her metal one last time before removing it. She placed it on the altar, alongside humanity's other offerings to the infinite. May we be remembered, she said quietly. Not for our victories, Rodriguez added, but for our courage to try, the crew finished in unison. As Mitchell turned to leave, Hayes caught her arm. Alex, what do you believe in this moment? Mitchell looked back at the altar, at the physical manifestations of humanity's hopes and fears, dreams and prayers. I believe, she said slowly, that we're about to show the universe why humanity's greatest strength was never our technology, our weapons, or even our determination. What was it? Mitchell's smile was fierce as the final warning lights began to flash. Our ability to take all of this, all our contradictions, our chaos, our impossible dreams, and forge them into something new, something that even gods fear to become. Broadcast all frequencies, all bands, Mitchell commanded, settling into the quantum chamber's crystalline seat. The chamber itself pulsed with an otherworldly light, modifications gleaming like neural pathways across its surface. I want them to hear everything. Broadcasting, Captain, Araya confirmed. Transmitting all human cultural archives at maximum power. The effect was immediate. The approaching Voraxian fleet faltered, their perfect geometric formations wavering as they encountered something their creators had never programmed them to understand. The full spectrum of human expression. Symphony orchestras crashed against heavy metal. Shakespeare mingled with rap battles. Sacred texts blended with scientific treatises. They're confused, Rivera reported from his station. Their formation is, Captain, I've never seen anything like this. They're actually stopping to analyze the data. Mitchell smiled grimly as the neural interfaces activated, connecting her consciousness to the ship's systems. Humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our art, our dreams, our ability to imagine impossible futures and make them real. The Voraxian Flagship, a crystalline behemoth that dwarfed its escorts, began emitting strange patterns of light. Energy signatures changing, Araya announced. They're attempting to communicate. Now they want to talk. Mitchell laughed, the sound echoing strangely through the quantum field building around her. Let's give them something to think about. Initiate final approach. The Hope's End surged forward, its engines pushing to maximum thrust. The Voraxian fleet's confusion gave them the opening they needed, their biological weapons responding too slowly to the unexpected strategy. Multiple targeting solutions, Rivera called out. They're trying to adapt, but our cultural broadcast is interfering with their coordination. Mitchell felt the ship's systems through the neural link, each damage report and power fluctuation becoming part of her expanding consciousness. Time to contact. 30 seconds. Araya responded. Captain, the quantum field is already beginning to affect local spacetime. Your neural patterns are showing signs of temporal multiplication. Mitchell could feel it. Fragments of possible futures and parallel moments bleeding into her awareness. She saw the Hope's End destroyed in 1,000 different ways, saw herself die in 1,000,000 different moments. But she also saw success, saw the impossible path they needed to thread. "Escape pods launching now," Rivera announced, his voice thick with emotion. "Final crew complement evacuating except Captain Peterson's team is still in engineering. Tell them." Mitchell gasped as another wave of temporal awareness washed over her. "Tell them I'm proud." "Now go, Commander." "That's an order." As Rivera reluctantly headed for the last pod, Mitchell focused on the approaching Voraxian flagship. Through the quantum interface, she could see its true nature, a crystalline prison for a consciousness that had long ago forgotten its original purpose. ARIA, initiate final sequence, and broadcast one last message. "Ready, Captain." Mitchell drew on every fragment of herself scattered across the multiplying timelines, focusing them into a single moment of perfect clarity. "To any who find this ship, remember, humanity faced extinction not with surrender, but with transformation. We looked into the abyss of infinity and saw not an end, but a beginning." The Voraxian flagship loomed closer, its crystal surface beginning to resonate with their quantum field. Light bent strangely around both ships as spacetime itself began to warp. 10 seconds to contact," Araya announced. "Captain, the flagship is attempting to establish direct quantum communication. They're trying to understand." Mitchell smiled as the temporal waves crashed over her consciousness. "Then let's give them understanding. Initiate quantum loop. Show them everything." The chamber erupted with impossible light as Mitchell's consciousness expanded across time and space. Through the neural interface, she broadcast not just humanity's art and culture, but the very essence of human experience. Every joy, every sorrow, every triumph and failure that had shaped their species. The Voraxian flagship's crystalline surface began to fracture, perfect geometric patterns shattering under the weight of human chaos. As the quantum loop engaged, Mitchell felt her consciousness merging with the vast alien intelligence, forcing it to experience the full spectrum of human existence. "We are chaos," she broadcast through every quantum frequency. "We are contradiction. We are humanity. And we are about to become something new." The universe held its breath as order and chaos collided, and in that moment, evolution itself took on a new meaning. The rescue ships found the escape pods scattered across 3 systems, each containing crews with stories too incredible to believe. They spoke of light that bent in impossible ways, of time itself shattering like crystal, of human consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of space and time. But it was what they found at the battle site that changed everything. The Voraxian fleet hung motionless in space, their perfect geometric formations frozen in the moment of transformation. At the center, where the Hope's End had made its final descent, reality itself seemed to ripple like water. The ship was still there, but it wasn't the same vessel that had begun its suicide run. "Analysis complete," reported Dr. Hayes, now leading the scientific investigation from the research vessel Hawking. "The hull, it's both organic and mechanical now. A perfect fusion of human technology and Voraxian crystalline structures." She studied the readings from the transformed Hope's End, its surface now a shifting landscape of crystalline patterns that seemed to respond to human thought. The ship had grown, evolved, becoming something that defied traditional classification. "And the quantum broadcasts?" Admiral Chen asked, his hologram flickering in the Hawking's command center. Hayes activated a neural playback, letting the room fill with fragments of transmission. "Across 1,000 timelines, I saw our potential. We were never meant to remain unchanged. The precursors feared chaos because they couldn't understand that chaos was necessary for evolution." Mitchell's voice, but transformed. Each transmission carried layers of meaning that scientists were still trying to decode. Some contained breakthrough equations that revolutionized quantum physics. Others held philosophical insights that spawned new schools of thought. "She's still in there," Hayes said softly. "But she's not just human anymore. The quantum loop didn't just trap her consciousness. It expanded it. She experienced every possible iteration of human existence simultaneously, and instead of breaking, she evolved. The transformed Hope's End pulsed with internal light, its crystalline surfaces refracting patterns that seemed to tell the story of human evolution itself. The Varaxian fleet remained frozen, their biological ships now responding to a new kind of order, one that embraced chaos as a necessary part of existence. The latest transmission was the most interesting. Hayes continued, activating another playback. We were right to look to the stars, but wrong to think we needed to remain unchanged to explore them. The Varaxians weren't meant to be our end. They were meant to be our catalyst. Their perfect order and our beautiful chaos. Together, we become something new. Something that can bridge the gap between what is and what could be. Admiral Chen studied the transformed ship thoughtfully, and the other Varaxian fleets across the galaxy. All dormant, Hayes confirmed. The quantum loop didn't just affect this fleet. It rewrote their basic programming. They're waiting, Admiral, waiting for us to be ready for the next step. As if in response, the Hope's End's surface shifted, revealing patterns that mirrored human neural pathways. New transmissions began broadcasting. This isn't an ending. It's an invitation. The universe isn't divided between order and chaos. It's the dance between them that creates everything meaningful. We just needed to learn how to join the dance. In the months that followed, humanity began to understand what Mitchell's sacrifice had truly achieved. The transformed Hope's End became a bridge, not just between human and Varaxian technology, but between different ways of perceiving reality itself. Research teams studying the ship made breakthroughs in fields ranging from quantum physics to consciousness theory. But it was the personal items from the chapel, now fused into the ship's crystalline structure, that told the truest story. Mitchell's street Christopher's medal, the family photos, the prayer beads, all had become part of something greater, just as humanity itself was becoming something more than its creators could have imagined. The final transmission, recorded in every database across human space, became humanity's new creed. We are the chaos that creates order, the dreams that become reality, the prayers that echo across infinity. We are humanity, and we are still evolving. Come find us when you're ready to become something new. The Hope's End continued its vigil, a lighthouse at the edge of known space, beckoning humanity toward its next transformation.